Hello YouTube. What we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead and do the wiring hack on an AWN 542 Speed Queen washer to where you get a selectable rinse instead of just the cold water rinse that comes with it. What this will do is if you pick hot water, hot wash temperature, it will give you a hot rinse. Warm, warm rinse. Cold, cold rinse. Now there's already a video out there. However, I watched it 4 or 5 times and it was dark and the angle that it was shot at made it very difficult to see. So what I decided to do is, since I had to do mine anyway, so I went ahead and pulled it out, and I'm going to go ahead and try to give better views of what's going on here. Pendleton Whiskey on the other video did write out a detailed explanation on how to do this, and I'm basically using that. But I figured since I had to do this, it might help if you could actually see what was going on. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute and give you a little different view. Okay, now first thing we have to do is we have to take this plate off right here. And there's 2 screws, they're 1/4 inch screws. So I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/4 inch nut driver. Take this off. Obviously, if you do this, make sure it's unplugged. Also, if you're not sure you know what you're doing, pay a repairman to do it. You can mess this washer up permanently or cause a lot of damage if you don't do it right. So pay attention. If you're not sure you can do it, pay somebody else to do it. Okay, this piece comes off. And you've got 3 screws right here, and these have to come off as well. And what this does is this allows the control panel to flip forward so you can get to the wires that you have to adjust. Okay, now just flip this thing forward. You have easy access to it. Okay, what I'm going to do so you can see better is I'm going to go ahead and take this hose off, and this is actually the pressure switch. There's another modification on this if you want to change the water temperature. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this off temporarily so you can see better what I'm doing. If you decide to do this to get to it, make sure you put this thing back on or your washing machine will overflow. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Now, a lot of the instructions you hear about terminal 4, terminal 3, and an L terminal. These are all right here. I'm going to go ahead and try to zoom in a little bit. So you can see it a little bit better. This is terminal 4, this is terminal 3, and this is the L terminal. Now, the first thing that we have to do here, and they're clearly numbered, so you don't have any trouble seeing them. I just wanted to let you see it here. Okay, now, what we're going to do is you have a black and a pink wire right here that is connected to terminal 4. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take that off. And we have to tape this up. This wire is hot. So what we have to do is we have to get electrical tape and tape this thing up to make sure that it never contacts anything metal and shorts out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some electrical tape. I'm going to wrap it around securely, just like this. Just like that. Now, I'm going to double it over as well, just like this. I'm going to tape it again. Okay, I'm going to tape it again. You just want to make sure this never contacts any metal. Get him out of here. Just like that. Now, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to go ahead and put a wire wrap on here, about like that. Now, the purpose of doing that is just to make sure this thing never comes loose. Okay, so our black and our pink wire is taken off the number 4 terminal, and it's just taped up so it'll never touch anything. Okay, now the next wire we have to fool with is the gray wire right here. It basically goes down into the washing machine itself, where the motor and the solenoids and everything are to control the water. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut this thing back a ways so we have room to get it here where it's not going to pull or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it here. Okay, what I've done is I've cut the gray wire that goes to the timer over here. Here's one end of it, and we're going to deal with that in a minute. And here's the other wire that goes down into the washer. Now what we have to do is we have to strip this wire, and we have to put a female connector on it to fit back on terminal 4. This is what I'm going to use right here. If I can get it in shot here. Okay. You can buy these at Lowe's, Radio Shack, wherever. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to strip the wire. Strip this wire right here. Now you have to be careful when you do this. This is stranded and you don't want to cut a lot of strands off. Now I've been doing this a long time, so I should be able to do it without cutting any strands. Okay, there you go. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the female connector on like this, and I've got one of these. You can buy these at Lowe's, Home Depot, or wherever. They're basically to crimp these, and what you've got is there's basically 3 kinds. There's ones with red, blue, and yellow, and whichever one you got, that's the one you use. This is a yellow right here, so that's the jaws I'm going to use. So I'm going to put it together, crimp. Okay, now that's on well, and we're going to put it back on terminal 4. So I'm going to try to get in here so you can see this. Okay. This is terminal 4 right here. It's gonna, there you go, right there. Okay, I'm going to put that on. Okay, now we got the gray wire that we put a new female connector on that goes down into the washing machine, and we hooked it to terminal 4. Now we still have this gray wire here, and this is going to have to go over as well, so I have to add an extension onto this. Now Pendleton Whiskey suggested either getting a yellow or another gray like this so you don't confuse the wiring harness. I looked all over town, I could not find yellow or gray. So what I'm having to use is I'm going to go ahead and use white. But since I'm doing this hack, I should remember it if I ever have a problem. Now, one thing Pendleton Whiskey recommended, which is a perfectly fine way to do it, is to strip the wires. Is to strip the wires and just use a butt connector just like this. Now, the way you do this, and this wire is heavier gauge than what this is. I looked all over town, this was the best I could find, but it should work. A little heavier gauge isn't going to hurt you. Smaller gauge could. Okay, so what you do with this butt connector, back this up a little bit, is go ahead and twist the wires. You put it in both ends. You don't want any exposed wire. And then you get your crimpers. Now this happens to be a blue one, so I'm going to go ahead and use the middle blue crimper to do this. Pull on it, make sure it's on there good, and it is. Okay, now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to work with the L terminal now. Which is right here. Okay. The wire that Pendleton said was on his was black and blue. If you look here, and you probably can't see this on camera, but if you look closely, this is a dark blue wire with a black stripe on it. Okay, so we want to go ahead and pull this off the L connector right here. And what we have to do is we're going to go ahead and we have to cut this connector off as close to the connector as possible. You want to leave as much wire as you can. So we're going to go ahead and cut this connector off. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to connect this black and blue wire with the gray wire that came from the timer that I hooked together over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run it back through this harness, or through this tape here, because you kind of want your wires, you don't want them flopping around inside this thing if you can avoid it. Now this isn't going to work, so I'm going to go ahead and just take it off and just use a tie wrap to hold these wires together. Okay, bringing this over like this, I'll just get me a tie wrap. Just tie the wires back together like that. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to take this blue wire that came off the L terminal and the gray wire that came from the timer, and we're going to have to hook these two wires together and put them back on the L terminal. Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and solder the three wires together and use some heat shrink tubing to hold this together, and then put me another end on here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and strip these wires. Strip the blue and black that came off the L terminal. Now, unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't find the right color wire. So if I ever mess with this thing, I'm going to have to remember or just look at it and see what went where. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, like I said, you want all your wires neat in this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off and go ahead and get another tie wrap to hold the wires together to here. Okay, now what we're going to do, now there's a lot of different ways to connect these wires together. You could conceivably, and I'm going to try this just to see, but I don't think mine are big enough. If you could find one of these female connectors where both of these wires will fit into it, you could just crimp them together. You wouldn't have to go through all the steps I'm going through. And amazingly enough, it does fit. Okay, so I've got a yellow female connector. I didn't think both these wires would fit into it, but they do. So I'm going to go ahead and strip a little more wire off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, twist these wires together. Check the fit in the female. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to keep this in camera as a challenge. Okay, as you can see, a female connector fits right over the two twisted wires. This is a yellow one. So I'm going to take my jaws again on the yellow one, crimp it together, pull on it, well, do it again. You always want to pull on these things and make sure they're really on there well. If they're not, they could come loose and you could wind up with a short in your washing machine. Okay, we're going to try it again. Crimp down real tight. Crimp again. Okay, now we're going to pull on it. This time it will not come loose. It's always a good idea to pull on these things after you crimp them. I crimped one, I thought it was okay. It came right off. You don't want that happening when you got your washing machine plugged in. Okay, now, so what you have here is you have the gray wire that went to the timer and the blue and black wire that went to the L connected together, and both those wires are now going to go on the L connector right there. Okay, so this is what, on a recap of what we did was we took the blue, the black and pink wire off number 4, right there. We taped it up real securely and put it off to the side. Now one thing else I'm going to do here I'm going to go ahead and tie wrap this thing back so it's not flopping around inside this console. Okay, there. It's just, you really don't want hot wires floating around inside this thing if you can avoid it. Okay, so I've got this thing taped back. Okay, now the blue and black wire, or the black and pink wire, came off number 4, taped up, set off to the side, taped into the wire harness so it won't touch anything. The gray wire that came out of the washing machine the black and the gray wire that came out of the washing machine right here and actually this thing is actually a plug, so if you wanted to you could take the plug off, but it's really not necessary. Okay, so anyway, the gray wire that goes down with the machine right here was cut. Gray wire went from here to the timer. We cut this wire here. We cut this wire, leaving plenty of slack on it, and then we attached the gray wire to the number 4 terminal. Okay, then what we did is we added an extension onto the gray wire that went to the terminal. It'd have been if you can get gray, great. If you can get yellow where it's not the same color as the other white, great. But if you can't, if you wind up with white like I did, just make sure you remember what went where. Okay, anyway, what I did was I took the gray wire, I spliced an extra piece of wire in so it could get over here. I took the black, or the dark blue wire with the black stripe, took it off the L terminal, here, cut the connector off of it, extended the gray wire from the timer, hooked these 2 wires together, and then put them back on the L terminal. Now that's pretty much it for this hack. This is all you have to do according to the instructions for this to work. Now, I'm not going to forget to hook this hose back up to the pressure switch. Now the way this actually works is this hose goes all the way to the bottom of the washer, of the outer washer tank. As it fills up with water, it creates pressure. The pressure pretty much goes, actuates this switch when it gets to a given level, turns off the water. Now, just for, since we're here and we're talking about it, the other hack that is real popular on this thing, since EPA and the federal government have gotten involved in the appliance business, when the AWN 542 washers come in, the water level's too low. Even when you put them on high, it only goes about 2/3 up. Now, the other hack on this thing, which is covered on another video, but I figured I'd go ahead and bring it up, is this is the pressure switch right here. And there is a small set screw on it right here, okay? This is what adjusts. This is what you adjust if you want to bring up the water level to what they used to be before water restrictions started making a mess with it. Now, what you have to do is you have to turn this thing clockwise, I believe. And now the way and what this will do is this will change where the water stops when you select high, low, medium wash water levels. Now, the way I did this, I'm going to go ahead and put this up and I'm going to show you how I did it. What I did was I went ahead and plugged the washer in. Okay, now, the way I adjusted this thing for the wash level is I went ahead and took this loose where I could get to it and get to this set screw back here that I just showed you. And what I did is I went ahead and put it on normal cycle and turned it on the highest load size it would go. Turned it on at the highest wash cycle that it would go. Now, what I did was I went ahead and let it fill up, and I watched it. And then, when it filled up and started agitating, I shut it off. And I go back here and I turn this switch just a quarter of a turn. You don't want to do very much or you could wind up flooding your kitchen. I just did it a quarter of a turn, put it back, turned it back on, and hit the reset button on the load size. Now what that does is it makes it fill up again to the new higher level. See how high that turned up when it started agitating? If it wasn't enough, I turned it off again, came back here, turned it another quarter turn, did the same thing again, just a little bit at the time until I finally got the wash level up to where I wanted it. Now, probably about as high as you want to go is to, you probably can't see this. Okay, I don't know if you can see this very well, but the highest level you want to go is about to the top holes on the basket in here. You don't want to go any higher than that. That's pretty much about where it was. Now, what I actually did just to be on the safe side is I stopped by water level between the highest holes and the second lowest holes, and that is probably what I would do. Just stop it somewhere between these two. But like I said, make sure you make the adjustments just a quarter of a turn at a time, or you could flood your kitchen. Now, once you get the water level about where you want it, then you're done. You just put the thing back together. Now we're going to go ahead and do that now. You've got a lip here. You've got two clips. This just slides into the clips, slides down just like that. Put your 3 screws back in. Like I said, they're 1/4 inch. And if you don't have a magnetic set of nut drivers, they're really worth the money. Don't buy the ones that are not magnetic. They're useless. The screws just fall out. You never can do anything with them. Okay, got this on. Put the top plate on, it just hooks in. Goes down like that. It's got 2 screws holding this on. And now you're done. So this covers both adjusting the wash level and also adjusting the rinse water to where the rinse water will be the same temperature as the wash temperature that you picked. I don't think these machines are sold anymore. Speed Queen swore they would never go to electronics, and it seems like they did. So I don't think any of these hacks will work on an electronic washing machine. The best thing about these things, which is why we bought them about 3 or 4 years ago, is they're mechanical. They last forever. They don't break. Basically what a Speed Queen is it's a laundromat washing machine with a control panel instead of a coin box. These things last almost forever. The electronic ones, there's no telling how long they will last or won't last. On most new appliances, everything that always breaks on them is electronic stuff. people bought Speed Queens because that never happened. Now, they went ahead and went to it too. So we will see if they are as reliable as the old ones were. But this thing cleans well. It's built like a freight train. It never breaks. We've had it for how long have we had this thing? We've had this thing for 4 years. If you look at it, it still looks brand new. I don't know if you can see this. There's no rust on it anywhere. There's no wear on it anywhere. It's just incredible how well this thing's held up, and it's used a lot. So if you can get your hands on an old mechanical one, you're probably better off. If I had to choose, I would buy an electronic Speed Queen rather than anything else. But I don't think you can do the hacks on them as you can. I don't think you can hack the electronic ones as you can this one. There's probably no way to adjust the water level or the rinse temperature on electronic ones. With the mechanical ones, you can. Okay, tried to cover both things here, put it in one video. I've never made one of these things before. I hope it helps some of you guys. Like I said, the last video on the rinse water temp was very good. It was just impossible to see. So I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a little better shot at this thing so you could at least see exactly what was going on. Okay, y'all have a good day. Bye.